Have any of you ever watched something like on History Channel or on Netflix, like one of those documentaries, and wonder, why wasn't that in our history textbooks? Yeah, I thought the same thing. That's why when I heard about this operation that happened at our beginning of World War II, I wanted to know more. So I researched Operation Drumbeat for the last 2 to 3 weeks and have discovered some things that are quite interesting. So Operation Drumbeat, there were U-boats that were stationed on the east coast of the United States, thus creating a crucial part of history that hasn't been taught for us concerning World War II. So first I'm going to talk about what Operation Drumbeat is, then I'll talk about where it occurred in specific spots, and finally I'll talk about the aftermath and how it affected our country. So Operation Drumbeat was an attack strategy made by the Nazis to attack ships heading into the east coast of the United States. One person that was a critical part of that attack was Horst Degen. He was a Kapitänleutnant or lieutenant commander, as said by Ed Offley, and he joined the German Navy during the rise of Hitler, so around the 1930s, 40s. Another person was Karl Donitz. He was the main person who created the operation. He is the Vice Admiral or Vice Admiral, as said by Ed Offley, and his memoirs of the attacks were published after the war, as shown in the Sydney Morning Herald, all the way over in Australia. The operation focused mainly on cargo ships, and one specific criteria was that any Allied merchant ship with 10,000 tons or more could be attacked no matter time or location, as told by Ed Offley. This little criteria was enforced by Colonel Donitz. Other ships were attacked too, like oil tankers and freighters, but they weren't as big, I guess, as a target as the cargo ships. Now that I've talked about what Operation Drumbeat is, I'll explore mainly where it occurred. It began on the New England shore on January 11, 1941. The British freighter Cyclops was under attack by U-boat 123, led by this Kapitänleutnant or Lieutenant Commander Reinhard Hartigan, as said by Ed Offley. This attack was sudden and uncalled for and came out of nowhere to the poor seamen. 87 lives were lost and 9,076 tons of cargo were sunk. After that, the attacks were all throughout the East Coast, with more merchantmen being attacked, as shown in the New York Times article on March 19, 1942. 11 were dead and 5 were missing. It mainly also impacted North Carolina specifically, being called Torpedo Junction by Kevin Duffus and others. It was the richest hunting ground for the U-boats, said Ed Offley. Another specific incident was Virginia. Virginia Beach was attacked on June 15, 1942. 2 oil tankers blew up by the U-boats led by Horst Degen, as said by Ed Offley. The Drumbeat attacked other areas too, like the Gulf of Mexico, as stated in the New York Times. The Norwegian vessel, or merchantman ship, was attacked, and 1 died and 3 were wounded. The Caribbean was also attacked. The U-boats attacked a U.S. freighter called the Del Plata. There were no casualties, but it was still a horrendous attempt. Canada was also impacted by the U-boats, as the British freighter Nicoya was attacked on May 12, 1942. So now that I've talked about where the operation occurred, I'll talk about how it affected the U.S. Once it was made known to the public, the immediate paranoia and dramatic amount of loss impacted the country deeply. In the course of the operation, a total of, I can't add that fast in my head. There were 2,700 just from North Carolina alone. The other 1,456 were from the East Coast, and the 87 were from the New England Cyclops, as told by Ed Offley and J.L. Hopp. A total cargo loss of 181,546 tons was sunk or blown up during this attack, as said by Ed Offley. The knowledge and lack thereof lead the citizens to be more paranoid than before. The Navy hid this information, I guess for classification, but also just to not get us in a panic. But when they revealed it, it made it worse than they had planned. People criticized the Navy for withdrawing this information from us and not telling us of all the losses and the ships sunk and all that. And when they made new developments, they were only effective before a short time, as said by Ed Offley. And the operation also led tensions between the U.S. and Britain, because the British people had prepared for this, had been warning us for a while, but we simply ignored them. So now that I've talked about that impact, I'll end my speech. So over the course of the speech, I've talked about what Operation Drumbeat is, where it occurred, and the aftermath. This event during World War II is crucial to our history because it impacted the U.S. in a way that they hadn't experienced before. It's also crucial because the battles that occurred could have changed the outcome of the war at any moment. Yeah, thank you.
All right, nice job, everybody.